Ava had always dreamed of a home nestled amidst nature's embrace, a place where her children, Lucy and Ethan, could run freely. When they stumbled upon the charming house on Ava's Hill, it seemed like the perfect place. The house stood proudly, bathed in warm sunlight, its windows like watchful eyes gazing out over the sprawling fields. Ava could already picture Lucy and Ethan, their laughter echoing through the spacious rooms. As they crossed the threshold, a shiver ran down Ava's spine. The air inside felt heavy, stagnant. The realtor, a jovial man named Mr. Henderson, dismissed it as the mustiness of an old house. He assured Ava that a good airing would chase away the staleness. But Ava couldn't shake the feeling of being watched, a sense of unseen eyes following their every move. Little did they know the house held secrets, dark, unsettling secrets that would soon unravel, turning their dream home into a nightmare. The house on Ava's Hill had a past, one that was about to become their present. The first week passed without incident, the joy of unpacking and settling in overshadowing any lingering unease. Then the whispers began, faint at first, like the rustling of leaves outside their windows. Lucy, with the heightened senses of a child, was the first to notice. "Mummy, I hear voices," she whispered one night, her small hand clutching Ava's arm. Ava, torn between comfort and concern, initially dismissed it as an overactive imagination. But as the nights passed, the whispers grew louder, more insistent. Ethan, too, began to hear them. He described the sounds as children's voices, their words indiscernible, yet filled with a chilling sadness. Their toys started behaving strangely. Building blocks tumbled from their carefully constructed towers, seemingly of their own accord. Dolls turned their heads, their painted eyes staring accusingly into the darkness. The laughter that once filled the house was replaced by an unnerving silence, punctuated only by the creaking floorboards and the ever-present whispers. Ava couldn't shake off the feeling that something was terribly wrong. The air around her seemed heavy, laden with an unspoken dread that gnawed at her every waking moment. The whispers, the strange occurrences, it all felt eerily familiar. It was as if the shadows themselves were alive, whispering secrets that only she could hear. Years ago, as a child, she had experienced something similar. The same cold shivers, the same inexplicable fear that had haunted her nights. A series of unexplained events in her childhood home had left her with a deep-seated fear of the unknown. The creaking floors, the sudden chills, the feeling of being watched. A fear she had tried hard to bury, to rationalize as an overactive imagination. But deep down, she knew it was more than that. Now, as she watched Lucy and Ethan's innocent joy fade into fear and anxiety, the memories came flooding back. The same terror she had felt as a child was now reflected in their eyes. The icy fingers of her past reached out, threatening to pull her back into the abyss of terror she had so desperately tried to escape. It was as if the past was repeating itself, a relentless cycle of fear. She knew she couldn't ignore it any longer. The time had come to confront the shadows, to face the darkness that had haunted her for so long. Something was happening in their new home, something dark and sinister, and she had to protect her children. The safety of her family depended on her courage to face the unknown. The house on Ava's Hill was supposed to be their sanctuary, a place of peace and happiness. A fresh start away from the chaos of the city. Instead, it was becoming a prison, its walls closing in on them, suffocating them with fear. The very place that was meant to be their refuge was now a source of dread. They were trapped, ensnared in a web of fear spun by unseen hands. The shadows of the past had returned, and this time they were determined to stay. Desperate for answers, Ava reached out to her brother, Tom, and his partner, Dave. She needed their support more than ever. Tom, a level-headed lawyer, tried to soothe her fears, attributing the strange occurrences to the stresses of moving and settling into a new environment. He believed that the mind could play tricks when under pressure. Dave, a history enthusiast with a penchant for the paranormal, was intrigued. He had read countless stories about haunted houses and was eager to investigate further. He had always believed that some houses held on to echoes of the past, remnants of emotions and events long gone. To him, the house was a living entity with its own secrets. Their arrival brought a temporary sense of relief. Ava felt a weight lift off her shoulders, knowing she had her loved ones by her side. There was comfort in numbers, in knowing they were not alone. The shared experience made the fear more bearable. But as the whispers continued, escalating into disembodied footsteps and objects moving on their own, even Tom and Dave couldn't deny the growing sense of unease. The situation was becoming more than just a series of coincidences. The house felt different now, heavier, as if an unseen presence had taken up residence within its walls. The air was thick with tension. The laughter that had once filled the house was now replaced by hushed whispers and anxious glances. The joy of the past seemed like a distant memory. Every creak of the floorboards, every gust of wind rattling the windows, sent shivers down their spines. The house was alive with unsettling sounds. They were living on edge, their senses on high alert, waiting for the next unexplained event to unfold. The fear was palpable, and the uncertainty was overwhelming. Determined to uncover the truth, Dave delved into the history of Ava's Hill. Hours were spent poring over old maps and local archives, each document adding a piece to the puzzle. He discovered that the land on which the house stood had once been the site of a tragic accident. In the late 1800s, a fire had swept through a small settlement, claiming the lives of several families, including many children. The revelation sent chills down their spines. The whispers, the toys moving on their own, it all made sense now. They were not alone in the house on Ava's Hill. They were sharing their home with the restless spirits of those who had perished in the fire, their sorrow and pain echoing through the decades. Armed with this newfound knowledge, they knew they had to do something. The spirits were trapped, their energy bound to the house, their whispers a desperate plea for help. As darkness descended, casting long, eerie shadows across the house, the atmosphere grew thick with tension. The supernatural activity inside reached a fever pitch with an intensity that was almost palpable. The whispers, once faint and distant, morphed into blood-curdling screams that echoed through the halls. Objects flew across the room with violent force, as if propelled by an unseen hand. And then, in the midst of the chaos, the apparition appeared, its presence undeniable. Standing at the top of the stairs, its form flickering in and out of view like a faulty light bulb, was the ghostly figure of a young girl, her presence both haunting and sorrowful. Her eyes, wide with terror, stared directly at Ava, as if pleading for help. A single word escaped her pale lips, a name whispered on a breath of cold air. "Help us!" Panic surged through the house, spreading like wildfire. Lucy and Ethan clung to Ava, their small bodies trembling with fear, seeking comfort in her embrace. Tom and Dave, their skepticism shattered, could only watch in horror as the apparition glided towards them, its translucent hand outstretched, reaching for something unseen. It was a scene ripped straight from their worst nightmares, a living horror they could not escape. This was a terrifying confirmation that they were not dealing with mere imagination, but with a haunted reality. In that moment of sheer terror, Ava knew they had to act fast, to find a way to help these trapped souls. These were not malevolent entities seeking to harm them. They were spirits in distress. They were lost souls, trapped and seeking release, yearning for the peace they had been denied for so long. Desperate, Ava remembered a name Dave had come across in his research. Father Nakamura, a renowned paranormal investigator known for his compassionate approach to troubled spirits. A frantic phone call later, Father Nakamura arrived at Ava's hill, his calm demeanor a stark contrast to the palpable fear that hung heavy in the air. With a voice filled with empathy, Father Nakamura addressed the unseen presence, acknowledging their pain and offering them a path to peace. He spoke of forgiveness, of letting go of earthly tethers, of moving towards the light. As he spoke, the temperature in the room dropped and the air grew heavy with the scent of rain-soaked earth. The ritual commenced. Incense filled the air with its purifying smoke. Father Nakamura, his voice resonating with ancient power, chanted words in a language both beautiful and haunting. The house creaked and groaned, as if resisting the cleansing, but Father Nakamura remained steadfast, his voice unwavering.